WNBC.
What are you doing?
We'll do it live.
That's our Mother's Day present.
Yes, we ambushed you. You're on our podcast right now. Now, maybe you'll refuse to be on it and won't let us publish this or whatever, but this could be a magical hour if you have Paul pour you a glass of wine and just run with it.
Yeah, I think maybe he should.
Get some whiskey.
A Tempranillo.
Make it stiff.
All right.
Now, we didn't just sabotage you.
You guys, I was waiting for this, but I thought it would be on my favorite movie one.
It is. We watched Imitation of Life last night.
Oh, you did?
Yes. So I know you didn't. You told me in a chat a while back that was your favorite movie, the 1959 version, Douglas Sirk's famous melodrama, Imitation of Life, was your favorite film. So we watched it last night. We're prepared to talk about it. Don't know when the last time you saw it was, but we hope you at least remember what resonated about it with you. But we do still have a surprise for you. We didn't just use that as a ruse to trick you in here. So if you want to open that file and check it out, we can kick this off right.
No, Lord, I should
turn the sound up.
Sarah won't be seeing it. Have you seen it already, Sarah?
It's going down, Elizabeth. It's Constantine. What up? Your boy from American Idol.
God,
Your boy from Broadway's Rock of Ages, Tony nominated. Hello. Well, Jason Thornton was telling me all about you. What an awesome mama you are. What a huge fan you've been. Thank you for all the years of support. You're awesome. Mother's Day's coming up. Happy Mother's Day to you, Elizabeth. It's been such a crazy couple of years, and you've been there for your boy. You've been there for your family. You've been there for all your friends and family. Thank you. Thank you for all the love that you've shown them and support. Thank you for being there. And Chris and Jay, they appreciate you letting them watch horror movies as kids, because that's pretty cool, okay? Which turned them into proud deviants, okay? And they're proud to be that today. Okay, thank you for being such a great grandma to Q. And it seems like you just have an awesome family, and that's so cool. You know, and I just know that they idolize you. You're the real American Idol. You're a total rock star. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, Elizabeth. Happy Mother's Day to ya. Happy Mother's Day. Chris, Jay, Q, everybody, they love you. Jason. And I just want to say, Snake! Good job.
The snake. I should have coached him more on the snake. Like, snake!
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if that inside joke came across. Yeah.
You only get so many characters to tell them what you want to say.
Wait a minute.
If this is indeed an episode of our podcast, for those of you watching who don't know who that is a guy named Constantine Maroulis, I think, who is as he tells everybody in every Cameo video, Tony-nominated Broadway actor and musician, but he was on American Idol, and our mom was totally hashtag Team Constantine, right? You want to tell them about that, Sarah?
No, I had a year of my childhood. Just kidding.
Well, she did tell me once, I'm going to start a website for Constantine orphans.
Some support group. That's hilarious. At the top of his Cameo, it says, "Your mom loves me." That's the first thing it says.
Oh.
So moms do love him.
Yeah.
I consider that my midlife crisis.
Constantine. It's funny. See, once I was out of the house, you had to find your own way on who to have crushes on. It couldn't be my idols. Like, oh, I'm into Jose Canseco. Mom gets a crush on him. And I'm into Kevin Costner movies. Mom gets a crush on him. She stole all my childhood idols.
Your boyfriends.
Fantasized about them. Constantine, not a childhood idol of mine.
That started with J too.
There you go.
But I do want to say, if this gets out, and Constantine, you see this, you fucking crush that, dude. That was amazing.
Awesome job.
I should have coached you on the snake better. It's my fault. You can send in Cameo a little 20-second like coaching video. I should have done that, but I didn't. But other than that, I think he was amazing. And I couldn't think of any. And your price is reasonable, dude. Some of these people are crazy on there.
Deal.
Bon Jovi's $10,000.
Well, I never had
Wow.
So happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's
Happy
Day.
Mother's Day.
From your boys.
We'll talk about this
Girl.
later off screen.
We'll talk about what?
This later off screen.
No, that'll be overtime. Beginning of Constantine.
No,
Only, Patreons only. Of which you're half of them. We have 2 patrons. You are one of them. So I think you're safe.
Actually, I'm 3. I'm 1 too.
All right, if you're down to do this, Imitation of Life, do you want to talk about why that's your favorite movie, or do you want to describe for people first what the film's about? Or do you want one of us to do that?
Since I'm not prepared, maybe you can. I'd like to hear what you think it's about.
It's this really old, boring ass movie. No, I'm just kidding. It's it's about this white woman who wants to be a Broadway star, and she loses her kid on a beach. Her daughter, Susie, who is found by this black woman, who then, I don't want to say hustles is a negative thing, but she's a hustler. She's like, look, I can come help you, whatever. They're essentially homeless, the black woman and her own daughter.
She's divorced. And
yeah, exactly. And the white actress chick is a widower or a widow. Nowadays, you could call her a widower, maybe, with the gendering and everything. But she was a widow. So she's like, all right, she has her come live with her. So it's the 2 girls and these 2 women living together. Eventually, the Broadway star actually hits it big. So you get that dynamic of it. But one of the biggest subplots of it is the daughter of the black woman who becomes the housekeeper, essentially, can pass as white. She's very light-skinned. So that's a huge part of the movie. It's just her rejecting her blackness, rejecting her mother, trying to assimilate into white culture, and just shameful of her black culture. And I mean, that's, I guess, the elevator pitch log line of it. I don't know if I'm missing anything.
that pretty much covers it.
Yes, I mean, there's a little subplot, I think, with the daughter and the mom.
The older man, yeah. Is that what did it for you?
No.
You're a young girl, like, man, I do dig older men.
I'm trying to remember when I first became aware of the movie, and it wasn't so much that it's not so much that it's my favorite movie. It just that it had an impact on me, because I remember it was one of my mom's boyfriends that was watching it, and he was crying. I just what?
That's touching.
That's awesome. That's a great reason.
I had a movie before, so that made me interested in it, because I wanted to watch it to see why he was crying.
I'm about to cry. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is. And yeah, this was made right at the beginning of the civil rights era.
Right.
And
1959.
Considering the subject matter, it was, and even today, with all the racism going on, and it had its like Harvey moments in it too. It is still pretty relevant,
Extremely.
Unfortunately, it's still relevant. What's that?
Trying to fit in to a place in society where society thinks you don't belong in, and kind of growing up the way I did with my mom, being an alcoholic and kind of being outcast in our neighborhood or whatever, and trying to fit in at school and things like that. I think that resonated with me, because it was at that time period where that was really important as a kid.
So you resonated with the Sarah Jane character, the daughter of the black housekeeper, Annie.
Right.
Interesting. I was going to say, are we passing white? Does that explain our lips and shit? Like, I thought you were going to break some news. I got a nice jump shot. Anyway, that's super interesting. That's what resonated with you. But I love that part about the dude crying. That you can see this man reduced to tears, who, I don't know what Granny's boyfriends are like, but if they were anything like some of your early ones that we remember, they weren't the type who'd be crying in front of kids. Normally.
It's a super relevant movie to talk about on Mother's Day too, considering the 2 main thrusts of the story were about child relationships, the rejection of her race on the one side, and the coveting of her mom's man and life and everything on the other.
Yeah, if I were to get Freudian, I might say that since you brought up that element as a subplot, when I missed it, the one of the young girl pining for her mother's boyfriend, and you talked about the impact it had on you with Granny's boyfriend and seeing him cry, Freud would probably have a field day with that. You coveted Granny's boyfriends. Is that what's going on?
That would be deeply, deeply buried.
Yeah.
If
Some
that,
of them.
if that were the case, because I don't remember any. I'm trying to remember how old I was. I remember where we were living, but
Where was that?
it had to be in the mid 60s in Glass Manor.
Oxon Hill area still.
Well, it's not really Oxon Hill, but not too far.
Yeah,
Not
it's in that
far
area.
from the DC line, because we had moved out of DC probably just a few years, not that many years before that.
Yeah. So I was born in DC General. Were you as well, Jay?
I was born in Cheverly, Maryland, technically in my birth
Okay.
certificate.
I was thinking as part of it being Mother's Day, you could talk about our births. I'd be curious to hear. I know you've talked about it a little in the past, but what are our two and Sarah's, how we all were may have varied from one another.
Even though this is a video podcast, if you have video of any of that, you don't have to share it. Don't feel compelled.
Like
If I have videos to show of you kids, guys,
Plus being born,
getting born.
I don't have it handy right now.
birth videos. No.
No birth videos.
Yes, good. Yeah, and just talk about, you got pregnant with Chris at a young age, so you were kind of thrust into motherhood when you probably should have been pining after your mom's boyfriends or whatever, you know what I mean? You're like the age that girl was in the movie almost.
She didn't have any at that time.
Right. None of
them all off.
Stuck around.
She had her hands full.
Yeah, with daughters getting pregnant. Well, and you said to me that we had set you up that there was going to be a surprise on this and we wanted to get a reaction video from you. And you said your mind was racing because you and our Aunt Joanne used to like to spring on our grandmother, who we called Granny growing up. That's when you like to spring pregnancies on her and let her know she was going to be a grandmother again, is on Mother's Days.
We only did
only twice.
with
You only got 4 kids between you, so that's 50% of the time. Well, sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, we did it with Sarah. I did it with Sarah, and then she did it with oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. But the youngest child of Joanne's.
So you didn't do it with me or Chris?
No.
Andrew?
Yes, I kept wanting to say Anthony.
Oh my god,
It's
gonna go over well.
The wine.
I'll bleep that.
Yeah, it's not enough wine.
Mom's on the hot seat. Sometimes you might lose your memory for a second.
Yeah. Well,
Blame it on the wine.
Well, all right. What was it like telling Granny that you were pregnant at that age? How long did you keep it hidden? Did you go to her right away? Like, what should I do?
It's been stressful.
Or was it like, having a baby when? In maybe 8 to 12 hours?
not much. No. She actually asked me because I was in denial.
Mm-hmm.
And she noticed that a certain item wasn't being requested
Mm-hmm.
at the grocery store. And so she asked me, so I said, I think so. So then I was pretty gullible, naive, ignorant. So, she talked to Joanne, and together they, looking at the dog, got me a doctor's appointment, and we went from there.
I remember one Mother's Day, I wrote a card that said, "Thanks for not getting an abortion, Mom."
And she burst into tears. I'm just kidding.
No.
Right. Go ahead. How did Granny react when she, you did tell her you thought it was the case? Was she upset at all, or it's just kind of like she seems like pretty seasoned with life and stuff? Was it just like another
blow?
I don't know how much you want to talk about it either, but she had that trauma with a young child of hers, right? So
yes, yeah, that's something I've thought about as I've gotten older more. Sister who is about 5 years younger than me, born with a heart defect that wasn't detected, and then when she was 8 months old, I thought she had pneumonia or bronchitis or something, and just wasn't strong enough to handle it, and her heart gave out and she passed away. And I don't really remember her. I only remember her from pictures. I remember my mom coming home from the funeral and what she was wearing. That's pretty much.
Did that change her like instantly? I mean, there was a her before that and then after that?
In my mind, I think so, because I feel like our childhoods were pretty normal. And, weekends, we all went to my grandmother's house. They lived on a farm, and everybody brought food, and the kids played softball out in the lawn, and we jumped out of a hay bale into piles of hay, that kind of thing. And my dad was always really great with holidays and stuff like that. So it was just a normal childhood. But I think that's, in my mind, when she started drinking.
Mm-hmm. And then from there, with her and our grandfather Frank, it probably went bad and too much water under the bridge.
Yes. Well, I think he couldn't handle it. He was miserable. I remember him holding her on the floor to stop her from going out at night. So.
Sounds like a Douglas Sirk melodrama.
No shit.
Maybe that's another reason I like it. But and of course, back then, I doubt she got any kind of counseling or treatment for grief or anything. So.
Right. Mm-hmm. The bottle or the church, and she wasn't really the church going type.
Nope.
That I remember. Bless her heart.
Either. So.
I got a lot of guilt about her. I feel like the last few years we just didn't, with the military life moving all over, and that song "Cats in the Cradle," how you get too busy at the end. The roles are reversed. I feel like we didn't visit her nearly enough or call her. Didn't do anything really. And it was like she's gone. I'm like, fuck. I still carry some of that. Because she was our world, man. When you were a single mother, working, going back to school, trying to get your GED, get a job, work your way up, find another husband, whatever. She was there every day. We lived with her. I mean, until I was 8 years old, I'd sneak into her bed and sleep butt to butt, we used to call it, stay warm, you know what I mean? And yeah, it just feels like, damn, I wonder if she felt betrayed or just forgotten. Makes me sad.
She never said anything. I tried to see her when I could, especially when we lived in Virginia. We used to drive up quite frequently to.
Yeah.
She's pretty stoic, though. Like, I don't know that she would say anything, even if she was feeling it or thinking it. Right.
That makes me even sadder. The stoic person who just harbors this loneliness but doesn't express it so no one can address it,
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice I'm trying to cuss less on this one because you're here? It's out of respect to you.
It's Mother's Day.
We'll see what your patrons say if we left this.
We're going to start a drinking game. Every time I say "and shit" at the end of a sentence, you have to do a shot. People will be done like 6 minutes in. If we want to talk about this movie at all, I don't know how much you recall it, like I said, but it's funny to me when I read about these movies. Douglas Sirk in his time wasn't really that well regarded, and the movie was panned by critics and everything, but it grossed $50 million and was the highest grossing movie of 1959. So obviously that, like Chris said, on the cusp of the civil rights movement and everything, that material resonated. I'm sure that racial angle was a big part of it, but and now people look back, it's like Criterion Collection, stuff. It's Douglas Sirk is regarded as kind of an auteur, and like you think of the term melodrama versus drama. I question if this is a melodrama or is it just a drama? It's
yeah, it didn't seem that melodramatic to me. It seemed pretty genuine, and
it's more about performance and just tone. Yeah. I think is the difference. Where a melodrama is where, oh my god, everything's all heightened and almost stagey. It didn't
seem that amplified to me, and this didn't.
Right.
Yeah, Yeah, I can see that. Well, it is a remake.
Yeah, which is also interesting.
Yes, 1930 something was the original.
Yeah, I tried to watch that one, but I couldn't really. I think I'm so entrenched in the one that I.
When's the last time you watched this one?
Maybe 5 or 6 years ago. You know, sometimes
It's not
I
bad.
might looked it up on Netflix, Prime, something like that, and watched it.
Cool.
I've watched it several times.
It was cool to see Alan Alda's dad doing his thing. Robert Alda played Loomis.
It's Alan Alda's dad?
Yeah, I looked it up.
Yeah.
I saw
That's
Alda,
awesome.
and I wondered, is this another nepotism case? Yep.
Well, you know, Chris Weitz and Paul Weitz, the directors, they started with like American Pie and shit like that. But eventually, I think they got an Oscar nomination for the script of About a Boy. They made that movie with Hugh Grant. They've made a lot of stuff, but their mom was the girl who played Sarah Jane, the passing white girl, as she was older.
Okay.
So it's like a lot of Hollywood lineage stuff going on there.
Mm-hmm.
It must be crazy. I was thinking that because obviously how you grew up, how we grew up, just these people, we run into a lot of them in Hollywood, you know, some producer we meet, oh, they're the son of this person. That's how, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I was wondering how the person,
Foot in the door.
yeah, that nepotism is always ever present in the, just, man, what a life that must be growing up with. And I'm sure it has its pluses and minuses. Like I know a guy on Facebook whose dad was like the Love Boat creator, but then I started reading this guy was notorious and all these lawsuits and everything. And then I know the dude whose dad wrote The Graduate or was a producer on The Graduate or something, you know. But then it's like, that's cool that your dad was like this Oscar winner, but was he home much? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
and often when you're trying to succeed in that same business, people hold it against you too, that you know, you're only successful because you were the kid of, you know, Hollywood alumni or whatever. But if you, you know, like we just reviewed Cronenberg's son's movie and we were like comparing it to his dad's and stuff like that. So you get compared too, you know?
Yeah. Big shoes to fill type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, none of you amounted to anything in the entertainment industry, so we don't have that problem.
That's right. Quentin's the one who will have that issue.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, not at this rate.
Some of the most successful ones, like Paul Thomas Anderson, you find out their parents might have been in the industry, but not successful. You know, it's like the most successful people's kids don't necessarily turn out to be the best filmmakers, you know, but somebody who exposed them to it. And you definitely exposed us to it. I don't know how many of these episodes you've watched, but we've toasted you several times just for letting us.
Yes.
A lot. You say, well, you know, I was watching The Exorcist at 5 years old, and I'm like, the whole thing. I don't remember sitting you down and saying, watch this.
No. It was more like your negligence worked out perfectly.
I was watching it and you came in the room or something.
I'm just kidding. No, but I remember like you would make us cover our eyes during certain movies. It's not like you were indoctrinating us and like, you're going to learn about these movies, but it's like you were cool with letting us watch it.
Right.
You didn't pander to us.
Right.
I remember preventing myself from watching it at a certain age, like covering my own eyes. And first time I ever whistled was watching The Exorcist. I was so scared. I put a blanket over my head and went, like, I just, man.
I remember we had those hand-stitched Afghans, and like if we were watching Police Academy 2 and there was like some boobs on the beach or something, you'd be like, cover your eyes, and I'd always snag an Afghan because he could see through it, you know.
Oh, God.
Or of course there's the finger trick.
Think about it back then, though, an R-rated movie is probably a PG-13 movie now, though.
Maybe. Yeah. There's stuff that, like, I mean, Midnight Cowboy was rated X. That's absurd.
Right.
That's an R movie, obviously.
Last Tango in Paris we just reviewed was X.
Right.
No.
So it might have a rape in it. So
that's true.
Hey, guys, I'm out. I can't check into my Airbnb yet, and it's starting to pour / snow. So
all right.
I'll try and jump on, and I'll try and jump back on in a few.
All right, I'll keep an eye out for you. Feel free to throw in questions or whatever for Mom too, if you got them, because she's not just our mom. That's our sister Sarah, by the way. Everyone who watches this, if this makes it to.
I was going to say, it seems like you're the only one out of 3 of us that didn't self-censor TV.
Oh yeah.
Censor yourself. I remember we went to a movie and she's like, don't think I should be watching this. And I'm like, go.
My son is like that. Quentin's like that. I don't know if this is right. This is kind of scary, Dad. I'm like, dude, it's make believe. It's he likes horror stuff, but I'm not pushing anything on him. I'm like, you can get to that. You got your whole life to watch slasher flicks. I'm not at all pushing that on you.
That's true.
Again, just like you didn't, I do have friends who are film guys and they're kind of indoctrinating their kids with their favorite albums, their favorite everything. You know what I mean? I know one guy, he had been listing like, this is what me and my two sons looked at. And this kids, I'm talking like 6 and 8 or something. And it's like, we listen every night. We listen to a record from front to end, a classic record. Where we're like, do these 6-year-olds really want to sit there and listen to every song of Simon and Garfunkel's best album?
I guess maybe if they're coloring a coloring book or something while they're listening.
Yeah, if they're doing other things during it,
be kind of you could passively listen and do other things. So. But
knowing this guy and who he was and the type of dude he is, though, I felt for these kids that they were just sitting there like eyelids pinned open.
Sit on your hands and listen to this album.
Exactly. Don't you see what's great about it? The harmonies.
So I have a question. This is off track, though.
All right, Sarah has a question.
She wants nothing to do with it because she spent so much of her childhood in bowling alleys.
Whoa. Oh, you're saying what?
You could drive your kid away from it by overexposure because
she
didn't really want to have anything to do with bowling because she spent so much of her childhood in bowling alleys when we were on leagues. And stuff.
Watching The Big Lebowski's traumatic for her. Yeah. All right, well, Sarah had a question too. What were you saying?
What's your favorite movie that you watched with all three of us? Well, not together, but individually.
Yeah, that's a good
one. Maybe Raiders of the Lost Ark.
With who?
What, you mean individually?
We watched it together.
Yeah,
I thought you got one that we've all.
No, I don't think we all I don't remember watching that.
You mean the three of us?
We all watched Locke starring Tom Hardy together. I know that.
Oh,
it was just Tom Hardy in a car.
Well, like from our childhood, what is your favorite movie that you would watch with us, whether it was with me or with Chris and Jay?
Raiders of the Lost Ark could apply to me and Chris probably.
Yes.
I was like, well, I guess I watched that with you.
Sarah's like 20 years my junior, so like.
Hey, I think we watched.
There's not a lot of overlap, but
I know Mom and I watched that together, but I don't know how much of a huge impact it had.
Well, what do you think it was with Sarah, Mom? Your favorite movie that you and her share?
Probably it might be a toss-up between two: Beauty and the Beast or The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, neither of those apply to us.
Mom looks at you perpetually as a child. What did you? Let's play the newlywed game. Like, what did you hope her answer would be, Sarah?
Cactus Jack.
A rough cut.
I was maybe gonna say that movie Dragonfly.
Yeah, with Kevin Costner.
Yeah, remember that one?
Really? So, what did you like about that? I mean, what? Because I didn't really like the movie, but
I don't know. I just remember what.
Except for Kevin.
I know the message of it and everything, but
I guess I just remember watching it a lot.
Oh, really?
Maybe it was just on heavy rotation of HBO or something at the time.
Or I just remember having like a very emotional connection to the movie, I guess, at a young age, or just
I haven't seen it. Check it out now.
Feeling emotional about it.
I saw it once. It's basically Kevin Costner's wife. They're like doing mission work in some South American country, and this bus goes down in a landslide, and his wife dies. And then he starts thinking he's being visited by her ghost in the form of dragonflies, right? Like in the jungle and stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, she had like a dragonfly birthmark or something.
Yeah.
And then they lost the daughter somehow, but found her in a village, and she had a dragonfly
tramp stamp.
Yeah.
Interesting. Dragonfly. See, that's what I love about this show. Like, we had this dude on when we had Doug, our other patron, Doug Johnson, shout out, and his better half Brett, who they're getting married this summer, which is cool. Finally, his favorite movie was Bruce Almighty, and hers was Parenthood.
I almost said Bruce Almighty for my favorite one.
Nice.
Really?
Toss up. I know.
Yeah, I saw that podcast. I really like that. They're nice couples.
Dude, they're awesome.
Yeah.
We did 2 of them. Both great, talking about free will and
Yeah.
suicide attempts and shit. It's heavy.
Yeah.
And then Brett was on that COVID one we did with Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
Sarah, how many times did Butch try and contact you afterwards? Butch Walker. That dude's a hound dog. All
Oh,
Maybe 2 or 3 times.
right.
really? Dude, if you're watching.
Back off.
You ain't nothing but a hound.
No, it wasn't that creepy.
Wasn't that
Slipped into your DMs.
That fourth message from him is usually the one that pushes it in the creep
You took the
lane.
hint.
Maybe I said something I don't remember.
Oh yeah. I remember the first time I found out you were pregnant with Sarah. I was at the dinner table. I don't think Jay was there, but maybe. But so the count might be off on this. But I think it was you, me, Paul, and I think Paul said something about the 4 of us sitting here at the table or whatever, and I was like,
Huh?
shit. Jay dropped a hint, and I was like, what? I was like 20 at the time.
One of those little
That was a pretty
teeth
big
in an
guy.
eyeball twins were found in Paul's brain. That's what he meant.
All right. Paul's parasitic twin.
Yes, exactly. I meant the 5 of us. Sorry.
Or his imaginary friend. Schizo.
Drop Dead Fred.
That's a good one.
You watch that one, Mom? Drop
That's a
Dead
good
Fred.
movie.
I don't think so. No.
One of my favorite movies as a kid to watch with you was, I don't know how many times we watched it, but my favorite movie, I think in that age range around 8, was Witness. And that was just
Great.
because we love Harrison Ford from Raiders and Star Wars, but then to see him in this serious role where, like, when he got shot in it, like, is he gonna die? Like, it was serious. And then that scene where he is dressed as Amish, where he's hiding with the Amish and he knees that bully in the face when all the Amish guys wouldn't fight him. I was like, fuck yeah.
Rad.
Super rad. That's one of those moments you're just like, yes, good guys win, And then the kid with the gun, that scene where the kid has the gun and he starts showing it to him, takes the bullets out, but then the mom comes in like, what are you doing? Showing my Amish kid a gun.
Mhm.
Just that worlds colliding kind of thing, because we grew up in basically a urban black neighborhood in Oxon Hill. Then we moved to the Philippines, so we always had worlds colliding kind of stuff going on,
Mhm. Mm.
How did Imitation of Life affect you as far as race goes when you were growing up through the civil rights movement into the 70s in an area like DC that has its own racial thing going on? Did that movie at all play into your worldview?
I'm sure it did, but I thought about that more often lately since, like, the George Floyd thing and everything. That growing up, in Southeast DC, through the civil rights, I remember there was a drugstore down the street my brother and I would ride our bikes down to and get ice cream and everything, and then it was burned out. And I just remember the anger and being afraid after that. But now I look back and think about how they felt,
Mhm.
the anger and the fear that they always felt. So, but I had cousins who lived deeper into Southeast DC, and we were always friends together. They never showed any kind of racial tones or anything like that. And I remember we'd go down and play, and we'd all be playing jump rope in the street and stuff like that. So I don't feel like that it played that big a part in our lives as kids. But then after the riots and everything, that's kind of when we moved.
Do you remember the riots? Were you there, like, watching stuff out the window and people and stuff, or was it more on the news for you, or what? I mean, I know that place burned down, but you didn't, like, see it going down or hear it?
Well, I can't really remember seeing anything. I just have little pieces of memory, like my aunt, there was a shopping center nearby, and she worked at a dress shop, and going down there and her being really nervous to go home and things like that, and just the tension more.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate too. Like we had that gas station famously a couple years ago down the street from us burned down during a riot, you could call it, but a protest essentially that, it's not, that's what happens. And that's the problem, is that there'll be a legitimate protest going on, and then a couple people participating in it will elevate it to property damage, violence, whatever. And the next thing you know, it's a riot. But it's like most of the people participating in it are just trying to survive in the middle of it. Probably they're like, how did this start? It's not like everybody called each other, all right, we're going to riot at 9 p.m. All right.
Right.
Maybe
we live pretty close, fairly close to the DC Maryland line. So more like the suburbs type.
People don't even talk about that riot. You hear about Detroit and you hear about the Watts riots a lot, but I feel like no one talks about this DC riot.
No, that's.
What was it in response to? Do you remember?
Not exactly.
That's what I'm wondering. Was it a local thing, or was it like the assassination of Martin Luther King, or what?
I'm trying to remember.
After looking at that myself.
That was 68.
I'm old. That was a long time ago.
Part of 68 Detroit, yeah.
Part of the broader King assassination riots.
Yeah.
That was definitely a fuel on the fire.
I think
Right.
it's been that. Yeah.
Yeah. That is one of maybe the worst moment in American history, to be honest.
Yeah.
Probably the
Preaching
worst.
Unity and peace, and to get murdered. Yeah. Just
right.
Awful.
Right.
He was about lifting up poverty, people out of poverty, eliminating poverty. Yeah, almost like the Christ of our country. You know what I mean? Like he was absolving us of our sins and capped. And of course, some people think possibly by the government.
Essentially, a turn the other cheek kind of message, peaceful protests instead of violence, and violence ends up.
Love your enemy. Exactly. Tragic.
I was thinking this film, like you mentioned, Granny's boyfriend crying and stuff. And, I hope it touched a lot of people out there who might not have seen things, through that lens as much, especially in its time. The 1934 or whatever version, I'd be curious to check out. I was reading a little bit about it, and what's her name again? The main character, Laura, is it?
Yeah, Lana Turner. Laura.
Yeah, her character, which wasn't Laura, in the names were different too, but she wasn't a actress in it. She just the Annie character had like a donut recipe or something,
right?
And Laura wanted to market it and give Annie 20%, and Annie wasn't into that.
That's even more interesting. There's like predatory kind of lending type shit. And interesting.
Yeah. And it's more like every man kind of story, for every woman,
Yeah, that 50s and everything. That's when Hollywood got its head up its ass and started putting on Oscars and
so I would be curious to check it out, but it's probably that, stuff from that era is kind of hard to watch, I'll be honest.
Would you be interested in a remake of this? Because think of like A Star Is Born. That's like thrice remade back to the 20s into the Barbara Streisand version, and now the Bradley Cooper one, which crushed.
Interesting. Yeah, just to update it and do it, because it still applies. Like I said, sadly, it's still relevant.
Yeah, the passing white thing, you got Rachel Dolezal. You could do the opposite with it or something, even maybe if you really wanted to get funky. You can make Susie's trying to pass as black. To be hilarious, but I think you still could definitely have a conversation about the scale of light-skinned versus black skin in the black community. Even we've got people who've told us countless times, and there's many examples of it, of the racism within the own community as far as or prejudice against, like there's a lot of resentment from the darker skinned African Americans towards the lighter skin who could more easily assimilate in white culture and go into what now we would call white spaces, which it's almost like It'd be interesting to introduce a darker skinned character or have Annie be it in the original or the 59 version and have her bring that up with her daughter. Like,
yeah.
Right.
Like you are so ashamed of your blackness that you reject it. And it's a rejection of your mom. But at the same time, it's like, once the whites know, look what happened. She got her ass kicked by this dude, which is a fucked up moment. There's this white guy she's dating, trying to pass as white. Then he hears rumors that she's passing as white. She's really black. And he kicks the shit out of her on the street.
By the way, that scene, the music was very strange to me for that scene. It was like very upbeat, jazzy music while she's getting, beat up.
That might be where some of the melodrama comes from it, but that's almost an argument in the other direction. Like to do the really emotional music would be melodramatic.
That's true too. Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's subversive.
Weird choice though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird. I think for nowadays for people to examine about themselves, how those people reacted and his anger at being fooled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why people feel that way. And even now today, just the feelings people have towards other races and superiority and things like that. I don't know.
It's so stupid.
It's so weird
to base that on a skin tone. Like what?
Well, our dad, Butch, our real dad, who sired us with you all those years ago when you were young and ignorant and whatever. This is a guy who took off when we were young, but for the best, because you didn't have any racist poisoning of the well, or you did none of that. Even if you grew up with some implicit bias or whatever, you didn't do any of that with us. I don't remember any racial shit.
No.
And he flew a Confederate flag on his property, and you know what I mean? And famously, I don't know if he was racist, but he was definitely raised with those biases.
Yeah. It was just part of his normalcy. Yeah.
Right. He's raised in Mississippi, for Christ's sake, probably the most racist state in the country. And I'm just saying, I'm glad we didn't grow up with that. Just poisoning us by accident, even,
Yeah, because like I remember when we, found him again and reunited a couple times, and he dropped M bombs still and stuff, but I didn't get a feeling of hate.
Right.
Like it was more almost like a comedic tone to it or something, or jovial version. It wasn't hateful, but it's still wrong and awful. But it just wasn't like it didn't come from a place of hate. It was again more like it was just the normal.
It is complicated. I feel if you talk to him about individuals, he wouldn't be at all. But it's so easy to box people into these things
to other groups.
It's absurd. Whether it's Democrats, the blacks, the whoever, that's why shit like Archie Bunker was so great. I mean, it is funny when we talk about the golden age of TV is now. It's like production value, maybe. Mm-hmm. But man, they were doing some shit in the 70s.
Subject matter.
Yeah. Where they were just digging in, and it wasn't preachy or anything. They actually used a racist character to show it without being preachy. Kind of like that's what we try to do with Cactus Jack. We don't tell you he's wrong. We just let him be wrong a whole bunch so you make up your mind if he's wrong or not. But anyway, not to bring that up again. That means we got to work in Howard Stern and Zac Efron by the time the buzzer goes off, because we talk about them in every episode somehow.
I remember Howard Stern.
Zac Efron's too busy to be in our movie. They were trying to package, by the way.
Old Howard Stern stuff I still listen to routinely.
Stern's the king. You were there when he was in DC early in his career. Did you listen to Howard? I
first heard of him from Mom. Yes, because you talked about the joke he made when I don't even think he did it. I think it was one of his fans did it or something, or one of his staff. But they called
Potomac Bridge,
the airline that had crashed into the Potomac Bridge, and said how much for a one-way ticket to the bridge.
Yeah.
But I remember you mentioned. I was like, oh, who the fuck's this? I gotta check this out. It's awful, but it's funny.
Oh yeah. As soon as I heard that, I laughed as a kid. Yeah. It's just
it's gone.
How do you not get the comedy of it? It's like
I think that. What was the term he used to use a lot? Dingleberries or
who knows? Back in the 80s, he had early 80s.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably what was boundary pushing at the time, dingleberries and shit.
Or it could have been something worse. I don't remember.
Maybe.
Douchebag.
I can see that one.
Definitely. I hear that one a lot.
What kind of movies did you grow up watching? Was Granny at all governing what you watched? I mean, there wasn't even that much stuff, but I mean, the 60s, you had all the B movies, and then Sandra Dee in this film famously was Gidget in the movie version, which started the whole beach movie craze. So there's all that kind of stuff that was out there in the 60s and 70s. What kind of stuff were you guys watching as a family, if anything? Because I do remember watching a ton of movies with Granny, but she just kind of sat back there.
Right.
I don't remember her talking about them or anything, but we'd hear her like laughing at stuff.
Yes. Smoking a cigarette.
Yes, exactly.
A tub of ice cream or drinking coffee.
Well, I don't remember too much on TV in the way of movies, but we used to go to movie drive-in a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember a few of those occasions.
The cartoon movie or whatever would come on first, and we were expected to be asleep. But there were most of the time not. And I remember my dad liked to go see horror movies, so maybe that's where all this comes from. Watching King Kong and the what was he called?
I'd love to hear what his favorite horror movies were and stuff.
Monster Black Lagoon, Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yes.
Nice creature feature stuff. Yes.
Yes. Like the classic Universal monsters, Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Wolfman. Well, one of the first movies I ever went to, didn't you tell me it was a drive-in and the Wolfman played? I thought you said that to me years ago.
I remember, this might be a conflation thing, because I remember seeing Jaws in the drive-in, and the opposite screen on the far end was a werewolf movie. It was like The Howling or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And we were watching that a lot. We were like going back and forth watching. But
man, they had drive-thrus where you could see both screens. That's
it was
nuts.
on the far end. It was like another lot where you could turn around and see the other one.
Dude, that's like being on the internet in 1981 or something. Which screen do I look at? My phone or the TV?
Wow.
That's amazing.
Well, they're talking about drive-ins, and I think they kind of are a little bit, but the possibility of a resurgence with the COVID thing and stuff. You just stay in your car and stuff.
Yeah, some comedians are doing, like Bert Kreischer's doing basically drive-in theater shows. Everyone just parks their car and watches. But
a theater here that showed them in their parking lot, they put like a big screen on the side of their building, and then people could pull into the parking lot and watch the movie.
Which isn't bad if you tune into the frequency and you got your sound system surround basically in the car.
Yeah.
If you keep the windows rolled up, you're controlled, bring your own popcorn, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's
And
not bad.
you could go in and use the restrooms for that. And I think you could order through your phone and they would bring the food out to you. But we do also have a drive-in here in New Braunfels.
We got to hit that next time we're down there.
Yeah, sounds great. Because, I remember back then you had to go to the concession stand. You had to leave your car and go,
Some outsider shit,
Well,
man.
this was during COVID.
Meet your Cherry Valance.
No, I'm saying that's a cool improvement.
Yeah.
What was that, Jay? Sorry.
I was saying, yeah, but you don't get to meet Cherry Valance at the popcorn stand like in the outsiders,
Nice.
Everybody's stuck in their car.
Yeah, that scene did jump into my mind when we were talking about drive-ins.
Yeah. So you guys went to the drive-in more. You didn't go to like the theater that much, huh?
Well, we did. I remember I remember seeing Disney movies.
That's cool.
Yeah, and getting sick at one and discovering I had German measles. So.
Really? What movie do you remember?
I think it might have been a Winnie the Pooh movie.
Dang, you just start feeling ill during it?
Yeah, we had been out and doing things, and I had a new golden book. It might have been a Winnie the Pooh book, and I just remember throwing up all over that and having to leave. And I guess that was before people got vaccines for.
Dang. And Granny was throwing up because she was drinking. Everybody's throwing up.
Before that.
I'm just kidding.
It's the whole family.
Like that scene in Stand By Me, the pie eating contest. Everybody's puking. Well, yeah, Steve. Let's talk about Stephen King for a second.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what did it, really.
His books laying around everywhere. I read a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
And of course his films.
Stephen King, man, that's super informative.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that came from our grandpa Frank again, your dad, the horror just What do you think it was about your upbringing maybe that just put you in a space where you would gravitate towards Stephen King, Dinar Kuntz, all that kind of pulpy horror stuff, you know?
It's possible because I always loved those kind of movies, The Amazing Shrinking Man, The 50-Foot Woman, the one about the giant spiders.
What ifs? That's essentially what all horror movies are. What if these dudes invaded your home, even if it's grounded, you know? Just
didn't The Shrinking Man end with him shrinking to nothing? Like vanishing from the world, essentially.
It's like the most existential, amazing shit ever.
Moved by that, I'm pretty sure that was there's a few versions, but
it's almost what dying is if you were to, you know, come up with a physical way to represent the act of dying, that you just shrink to nothing. You know?
But he still existed on his own, just in this, like, it just cut off from the world. You know, it's kind of wild.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, definitely.
Until the sequel, where he meets a pretty girl who was also shrunk to his size, and
and he becomes Ant-Man,
right? And the Wasp.
Who knows? Maybe it was a way to stay connected with my dad after the divorce.
Well, we also just appreciated that you were a reader.
Yeah.
Say what you want, even if people aren't reading high literature, that does not matter. Read around your kids, man. And studies show that you can read anything, comic books, whatever, just be reading, you know.
You're building vocabulary, you're learning grammar and stuff like that. You know?
Dude, yeah, all of my vocabulary, which I exercise much more in writing than like on this podcast speaking, came from Marvel supervillains. Supervillains drop some dime store words, dude. Like, I guess dime store was good back when that phrase came up. Like when words cost a penny or whatever. That's interesting. How much do movies cost when you went to the drive-in as a kid? Do you remember?
Gosh, I wouldn't have been aware of that.
Like 50 cents a ticket or something, man. Dang.
Probably pretty darn cheap.
What was I watching? Some movie about filmmaking, and someone said someone's dropping their hard-earned quarter on this, you know?
I wonder how much concessions cost back then.
Right. Well, and that's how they make all their business now.
Mank.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That Fincher movie, Mank. Yeah, because, man, going to the movies now, that was our favorite thing as a kid. We would try and go to the dollar theater, as much as that can suck sometimes. The key is to see, like, the erudite movie that the pretentious movie at the dollar theater. That's the trick. Because no one,
type stuff.
Yeah, no one's seeing it. It's like you'll be one of 3 people in there, but you can't go to some Fast and Furious movie in the dollar theater. You're fucked.
My favorite thing to go to a movie by myself, and there's no one else in the theater.
I love it too when it's a matinee and you come out and there's still the day ahead of you, you know, there's still sun and stuff. It's a great feeling. Especially, I mean, some movies are, when you walk out, you are still under their spell, you know.
Totally. I think that helps too, that you're not going to bed shortly after.
Yeah.
You walk around with that movie for a whole day thinking about it.
Day, yeah. I remember seeing American History X with Granny. Right? Yeah, it was Paul and Granny was with us.
Yes, right? It was an amazing experience.
Remember that? What? Going to see American History X?
Oh. Yeah, we saw it in Woodbridge with Granny at that mall or whatever. I think it was me, Chris. I think it was Paul, Granny, me, and Chris for some reason.
Yeah, the first time I remember seeing it.
Yeah, I think so.
On DVD.
Yeah, I think we were like, you got to see this. Because we always were fascinated with that stuff. Do you remember, I don't want to be putting you out there in the middle of the world like this, but bringing home Faces of Death tapes?
Yeah.
We were teenagers, people. It's cool. It wasn't like showing us 7-year-old Faces of Death, but
I don't know. To me, I mean, it's life. That's part of life, you know. And there is a morbid curiosity that we all have. I don't think.
Honestly, look at those films, the ones that have real footage, at least, more as documentaries than shock material. Yeah.
It's
but everyone looks at them like they
want to know what your own end might look like, you know, if you come to some untimely, you know, accident or what have you.
Rituals from around the world, that kind of thing.
And well, it's a matter of like how they're edited,
Kane type shit, yeah.
Right? Is it celebrating it or
right?
Reveling in it, fetishizing it, that kind of stuff. But I think the early ones I remember was just like, here's a clip, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's what I remember. And I remember the one where they were eating monkey brain.
Yeah, and they're like clubbing the monkeys in
Which
the
might
head.
be fake. I know some of those were
Indiana
fake. And I feel like
Jones.
that might have been faked, but
Yeah.
yeah. That's the scene in India where there's the eyeball soup and all that shit. I remember that too in the theater. That was great.
Man, who was I just talking to? Maybe it was me and Chris talking though, or maybe it was to a guest. But the idea that you can't put horrific stuff in a movie anymore, like in Hollywood. Maybe it was a screenwriter we were talking to, but then you look at the stats on the internet. Oh, I think it was in our Megan is Missing conversation.
Oh yeah.
Because this is a movie, Megan is Missing, this horrific found footage child abduction murder movie that
horrifying.
Sat around for years before a distributor would pick it up and do anything with it, and even then didn't really make any noise until last November in 2020 during the pandemic. It blew up on TikTok and had like 85 million views or something in November. Massive numbers, right? And then you hear about, any ISIS beheading video, it does millions of views, right? So it's just funny, if Hollywood's actually looking at what people really want to see, it's pretty gnarly and pretty realistic,
Mm-hmm.
But we always try and avoid these things in films. It's interesting.
But Cactus Jack was too much for them.
Yeah, we'll see. We got some European things going on with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll probably appreciate it a lot more than
so there's
an audience.
European publicist who really dug in, is into it. And it's going to help, I think, at a discount, knowing that we have no budget left. But somebody who does like Lars von Trier movies, really creepy, awesome stuff like we like. Anyway,
have you seen anything lately, Mom?
Yeah, that's always. You're actually good for movie suggestions. You turned us on to True Romance and Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
You.
Braveheart.
Did I?
I think so.
Oh.
This is because of you. Oh, man, it's backwards.
It's upside down. But,
oh, yeah. Yeah, it's backwards and upside down. That's the bad motherfucker wallet.
For me, it wasn't upside down. But yeah. So anything lately?
Gosh. I can't say movie-wise, really, because I feel like since the pandemic, there hasn't, not new movies, there hasn't been a lot out there.
Except Cactus Jack, of course.
Yeah. We've just been going through TV.
Yeah,
we talk about that a lot.
That's you can marathon it and sink in.
Yeah.
How about a desert island movie? Would Imitation Life be, or if you were stuck on a desert island, what movie would you pick if you could only watch one forever for the rest of your life?
No, it wouldn't be that one. Maybe
I wouldn't think so.
Breakfast Club. Hell yeah. That is great.
That's a good one. That's one of my all-time favorite stuff.
I think it's my favorite answer to that question so far from any guest.
Mm-hmm. Good answer. I didn't know you like that movie that much. I mean, yeah.
It's one of those movies you turn on whenever it's on, no matter where it's at.
Judd Nelson, man.
Totally.
Bender.
Yeah.
You just got to take the Bender ride.
It's a great cross section, of society, of all the different, archetypes, especially in high school, the jock, the nerd, the, weirdo.
Mm-hmm. And it goes back to the
whole ending.
Like monologue. Life trying to fit in.
Hey. Yeah.
Where do you fit in this world?
Yeah.
Which is lame.
It
really
is.
has to fit in.
Kind of the answer with that movie is there is no fitting in. You're each just an individual, right? There is no greater in that room. They were each representative of a different thing, and it wasn't about this larger mass you fit into, which was cool about it. But then after they get out, that was a great thing about it too. They say, well, when I see you in the hall, I'm probably not going to be.
That's one of the best moments in the movie where Claire straight up tells the truth. I'm not going to say hi to you. We live in different worlds. This is some weird dimension we found ourselves in between worlds.
And then Emilio Estevez that's fucked up,
You always have this moment.
What's that?
You'll always have that moment.
It feels true too, because we talk a lot on this podcast about those kids movies of the 80s and how they didn't sugarcoat or pander the world to children. And that was Spielberg's genius with stuff like E.T. and then even producing Goonies and stuff where kids were treated like little adults. Who didn't know everything yet, sure, and made dumb mistakes that kids make or whatever, but now we treat kids like there's some different species than adults, and they can't see anything adult. They won't understand it or relate to it. It's movies for us were like a soft launch into the world. We know the dangers out there. We would know, you know, that you could be funny or that it's cool to be this or that, you know. It's kind of almost a guide to living, but now it's so artificial. It's like bad textbooks that are revisionist history on human nature or something. It's weird. And with that,
What?
You're alone, right?
Yeah. Is it cool if I start filming now?
No, when we get inside.
Why are you here?
I just thought it was really interesting, you know, that someone hasn't left their basement in 6 months, not even to use the bathroom. Is that true?
Why would I want to go out there? I got everything I need right here. That's what's wrong with most people. They're weak-willed pussies and parasites who buy into that whole "it takes a village" bullshit. You know how many aliases I've used calling into radio shows?
I've had it up to my goddamn gills with the systematic feminization of this country.
Of course we want you. Get your own damn show if you think you got that much to say.
You live in your mom's basement.
Get down! Fuck you! What's so special about my loser son?
You really do hate your own mother.
She's a woman. Why wouldn't I?
You know, there's some disconnect there, and if I could find it, what is hate? Where does it come from? Where does it go?
You want to know what gender you are? Reach down the front of your fucking pants and chew fucking kite. Black Lives Matter. Do you call horses slaves? Liberal fucktard. Enough with the parades and the rainbow flags.
Dude, this guy's... it's like pure hate, man.
Want to see something really fucking cool?
This guy is a fucking animal. He's got himself on a leash. He's itching to get off that fucking leash. And he's gonna fucking kill some people.
What a fucking show.
Stop!
What do we hear?
Look at me! Look at me!
We're gonna help you show them the light. We're gonna change the world.
This is Cactus Jack coming to you live from a studio audience.
To the man who calls himself Cactus Jack, we have watched as you have rocketed to infamy.
And you wonder why these cornered animals lash out. Pick a fucking side.
And now, we have watched as you have called for literal blood.
I know you're out there listening. It's buzzing in your ears, burrowing into your brain.
Do it.
Jack, you're gonna love this. I pulled that trigger on that motherfucker's head.
Your VPN will not shield you. The darknet will not hide you. You and your kind are finished.
You think I'm scared of you?
Come and fucking get me!
Might I be your neighbor? Neighbor?